It's the start of a brand new week, and no matter where you're watching us from, this is Primetime News live here on News First. A very good evening. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Nadim Majid. Now, the Syrian Prime Minister Wal al-Halki survived an attack on his convoy today as rebels fighting to topple President Bashar al-Assad struck in the heart of the capital, Damascus.
We have more details coming up in the news, but first a look at the headlines.
In the news making headlines this evening, the chairman of the CEB says the electricity tariff amendment is an interim program. A demonstration calling for the cessation of land takeovers in Walikamam, Jaffna. The Minister of Land says that lands have not been distributed for political benefit. Customs reveals that a stock of contraceptive injections smuggled into the country in containers carrying potatoes is valued at 30 million rupees.
Moving on to the stories in detail now. Your top story this evening, the Customs Department noted that the contraceptive injections that were discovered hidden within a stock of imported potatoes were worth over 30 million rupees. Customs Director Mali Piasena said that the injections were discovered after inspecting 3 containers.
The containers that arrived in the island from Karachi, Pakistan were inspected by customs officers from last Monday to Friday. The customs officers inspected 4,334 sacks of potatoes, each sack weighing at 15 kilograms. The stock of contraceptive injections was discovered hidden inside 15 sacks of potatoes in the 3rd container that was inspected. 30,000 vials of the contraceptive injection Depo Provera 150 milligrams were discovered. The containers of potatoes were not cleared soon. Therefore, we became suspicious and inspected them. We are preparing to arrest a Pakistani national in this regard. The Customs Director added that the suspect is resident of Batramulla and that a company registered under his name had imported the potatoes. According to my knowledge, these contraceptives are mostly used by women in rural areas. Incidentally, the stock that was taken into custody is the same brand of injections imported by a company of the government.
Now to your developing story tonight. Speaking exclusively to News First, WB Ganegala, the chairman of the Ceylon Electricity Board, said the revised electricity tariffs were introduced as an interim program. We expect that through the revised electricity tariffs, we will receive an income of about 45 billion rupees. If we do receive this money, then within this year, we are prepared to implement our national plan to move away from high-cost fuel-based power sources to cheaper sources like coal. 300 megawatts are generated at present at the Norachole coal power plant. By the end of this year, when the 2nd and 3rd phases are implemented, we expect to generate another 600 megawatts. Then we can save a large amount of money that we spend on fuel. Thereby, these revisions were introduced as an interim program. I am not saying that there are no irregularities and wrongful acts taking place at the CAB at certain levels. But in the future, the senior management, including myself, the board of directors and the general manager, do not expect to leave any room for corruption, fraud and irregularities. Now, the CEB chairman had this to say about allegations that have been levelled recently at the CEB's board of directors by various persons. These people can refer these to me or the general manager. If they do not have faith in this institution, then there are plenty of other places they can refer these to. There is the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, the Auditor General's Department and the Presidential Investigations Unit. Reports can be submitted there and complaints can be lodged. This is not being done. Hence, this is a mudslinging campaign. My board of directors and myself will look into places where there are shortcomings and we will take the appropriate action at the appropriate time.
In related news, protests were organized by members of several local government institutions against the electricity tariff hike.
Opposition party members of the Kandy Municipal Council attended the monthly council meeting wearing black bands, holding posters and brandishing burning torches. They expressed their protest by lighting candles within the council chamber. Meanwhile, opposition members of the Ambegamo Pradeshia Sabha travelled from the Ginigatlian area to the Pradeshia Sabha premises carrying burning torches in protest against the electricity tariff hike. We call on the government to immediately stop the increase in electricity tariffs and provide relief to the innocent people. The Pradesh Sabha session had commenced when the opposition members carrying candles entered the chambers. However, the members of the ruling party expressed their protest and took steps to extinguish the candles. 4 opposition party members of the Amblipitiya Pradeshya Sabha also engaged in a protest against the electricity tariff hike. The members, who carried burning torches in a mark of protest, marched in the Pradeshya Sabha complex in Tunkama. Well, before moving on to more headline-making news, let's take a quick look at the newspaper cartoon of the day. Now, the Minister of Land and Land Development, Janaka Bandara Tennakoon, says that lands in the north were not distributed for political benefits. The Minister made this statement while participating in a mobile service of the Galewala Divisional Secretariat to resolve land issues. We took steps to return 12,000 acres of land in the north which had been taken over by the army to the people. We took steps to have cordial discussions with the army and return 5,000 acres of land near the Palali airport to the people. Therefore, what we have to tell those who raise false allegations is that the Land Ministry has not and will not do anything unjust. If anyone is accusing us, then we challenge them to prove it. We join Ramesh Rugal Bandara at the News First North Desk for the top story from the Northern Province.
Well, Nadeem, the top story from the Northern Province for today is a protest stage in the Tellipure area calling on officials to stop the takeover of lands in the Valikamam area and to settle them in their original homes. Now, the officials in charge of land takeovers issued a statement on the 22nd of this month that lands in the Valikamam area would be taken over for public needs.
People who had been displaced from the Valikamam North area, civil society activists and representatives of political parties including the Tamil National Alliance and the Tamil National People's Front participated in this demonstration held opposite the Tellipalai Divisional Secretariat. The demonstrators called on the authorities to resettle 30,000 people displaced from the 24 Grama Nirdhari divisions in Valikamam and to return their original lands. Our reporter says that security had been beefed up around the Tellipalai Divisional Secretariat and the surrounding area as a result of the demonstration. Our people can be patient no more. We must secure our lands. We must be resettled on our lands. But today the army has taken over these lands. They have said publicly that these lands are needed for military affairs. We ask the army that has prevented us from going to those lands to leave our lands. Our struggle will continue. We must go beyond the international arena. There may be those who threaten us. The police, army, criminal investigations department and others will attempt to obstruct us. They are obstructing us now. They will do so in the future. We are fighting amidst all this. On the 22nd of this month, the officer in charge of land takeovers in the Jaffna district issued an announcement that an area of 6,381 acres and 38.97 perches was to be taken over for public needs. Well, it's time now to find out the top story from the Southern Province, and for that we cross over to Madhushka Balasurya at the News First South Desk. Madhushka, what have you got for us?
Thank you, Nadeem. A number of villages in the Hambantota district, including Mattala, are facing a serious threat of wild elephant attacks. Area residents charge that officials have not turned their attention to this issue despite the number of incidents reported of the destruction caused to lives and property.
This has become a common sight in the Mattala area these days. The wild elephants that roam these areas during the daytime raid villages after nightfall in search of food. According to a correspondent in the area, residents of 10 villages including Lower Mattala, Andravava and Gonnorua live in constant fear and face numerous problems. In the recent past, 15 houses have been destroyed by wild elephants in these areas.
My rifle
I was sleeping with my wife and child. The paddy was stored right here. I tried to chase the elephant away when it began eating the paddy, but it did not leave. There was a distance of about 10 feet between myself and the elephant. We got away safely by jumping out of a window and fleeing. Residents have begun leaving their houses at night due to wild elephant attacks. They have sought refuge in small sheds built on trees.
ඔවුන් රාත්‍රී කාලයේ පහන් කිරීමට සූදානම් වන්නේ ගස් මුදුනේ අටවාගත් පැල්පත්වල.
The destruction caused by wild elephants to farmlands in the area is also clearly evident. Farmers have begun to transport the crops stored in their homes to other areas in order to protect their produce. The elephants in the other areas started coming towards this side after lands were cleared and the airport was built. Now we have been affected. The construction of the airport was the biggest factor. The lands that they cleared were once used for chaina cultivations. The airport is not a bad thing. It provides us with jobs as well. However, we have to live in order to do a job. The wildlife officers do not provide any assistance. There is no mobile service here. When we inform them, they say they do not have vehicles or necessary equipment.
Retired Supreme Court Justice C.V. Vigneshwaran says that statements informing that elections for the Northern Provincial Council will be held this year are a deception. Speaking at an event held in memory of the late S.J.V. Shermanayagam, the retired judge had this to say.
I can say without any doubt that the elections for the Northern Provincial Council will not be held this year. This is because various things that put pressure on the people are taking place in the north at present. I see this as a deception because an election in the north at present will not favour the government. I feel that certain things are happening to suit the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which is to take place here in November. Our lands are being lost before our very eyes. Our skies are being lost. Our art and culture is being destroyed. Our history is being destroyed and rewritten.
In business news tonight, official government data indicates that tourist arrivals in Sri Lanka increased by 11.6% in the month of February. According to data released by the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, 93,232 tourists visited Sri Lanka this February.
The majority of tourists who visited the island in the month of February were Europeans and South Asians. 43,635 European tourists visited Sri Lanka in February, which is an increase of 13.7% year-on-year. Meanwhile, tourist arrivals from Russia and Eastern European nations had increased by 17% in February this year. 22,191 South Asian tourists visited Sri Lanka in the month of February. Although this was an overall increase of 2.5%, the number of tourist arrivals from India had reduced by 1.8% in the month of February. It is notable that tourist arrivals from China increased by a staggering 89%. The Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority notes that while 190,643 tourists visited the island in the first 2 months of the year, this is an increase of 12.5% year-on-year.